Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Dating Made Simple podcast. I'm your host, Tom Robinson, and sitting right across from me, that great luminary of dating thought, Bob Walls.
Oh, Tom, you flatter me. I'm embarrassed. I'm blushing
how
right
I
now.
and everyone that listens to this podcast feels about you.
Luminary. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm honored to be here.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much.
It's good. And sitting right next to you, our other co-host.
The real deal.
She's becoming a
real
regular.
deal.
She is a regular.
Well, Did you just call me a co-host?
Yes.
She's the co-host. She's the real deal.
We might as well refer to her that.
She's the co-host.
She is.
So, she's
Macy.
not the official co-host.
I'll take the co-host title any day.
Welcome.
And Coco is something
Thanks for having me, guys.
It's great to have you.
I love being here. Wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
Oh, well, thank you. It makes it so fun. Well, I'm really excited today, Macy. You have a special guest today.
I do, and I am super excited that she's on.
Do you want to tell us about her?
Yeah, I would love to. So on the podcast today, we have the one and only Kristin Thelin, and if you didn't know, my last name is Thelin as well.
Are you related to her?
I am. She's actually my aunt. Oh. And she is literally the best person ever. I went to lunch with her over winter break, and we had a wonderful conversation, and she's just a great conversationalist. She is a relationship and marriage counselor / life coach.
Wow.
She can give her full title. It's a fancy name.
So she's on today because of her expertise, not just because she's your aunt.
Exactly.
Oh, that makes a lot more sense.
And looking at her website, she says she's helping women change how they think and feel, especially to love their perfectly imperfect relationships.
Ah, say that again.
Helping women change how they think and feel, especially to love their perfectly imperfect relationships.
Love their imperfect relationships.
Kristin, welcome.
Wow.
Hi, guys. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, great to have you. So let's talk about that little statement we just said about loving your imperfect relationship. What are you meaning by that?
Well, as you guys are in advertising and I'm hearing that, Mom, is that hitting clearly? But I like to, my area that I love is I help women that let go of what their life is supposed to be and love the life that they actually have.
Oh, I like that. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah. Now, go ahead and explain that even deeper, because I think we have a lot of young women here at college who think at this point that their life is supposed to go in a particular way. Okay. Especially, I think, within our religion and our culture.
Oh, totally. I am one of those women as well, and that's why I ended up getting into this profession. But I think, especially within our culture, we think we do things, we're obedient, we check all the boxes, and our life is supposed to come out a certain way, right? Like how we think that it should go. And most oftentimes it doesn't go that way, and we think something's gone terribly wrong, right? If it takes you longer to get married, or you're not married in the temple, or something happens with a child, or all the different things that we experience in this life, sometimes it takes us on a different path, and we kind of, at least for me, think, oh my gosh, I did all the right things. How come my life is turning out this way?
Right.
Instead, realizing, okay, this is my life, and there's so much good happening and so much to learn within the process of it.
It's funny that we actually think that way, because I know that's a prevalent thought that if we keep all the rules and we do everything right, that God will bless us and we'll never have to carry a heavy bag,
Right.
And our lives will just go. And I wonder why we do that to ourselves, because if you look back at history or even biblical religious history, nobody ever, no, there's not one person that never had any, including Christ, that had everything that worked out just perfectly. I'm sure it went the way Christ wanted it to, because he knew the end from the beginning. But nobody has
Moses
this
had no idea he was going to be in the desert for 40 years.
Yeah, or get floated down the Nile in a basket. And so we all encounter different circumstances that are beyond our control. I think the problem comes in is sometimes we blame ourselves, that we think, well, if I would have done this, then this wouldn't have happened. And we internalize this to think that we're the problem rather than managing the circumstance that we're in.
Yeah, and Kristin, do you see that? Like, where does that perception come from?
I actually don't know where, but I know we all have it, right? I think that if we do A, B, and C, if we're obedient, like for me, example, growing up, I was obedient by nature. I did not like to push the line. I did all the things that in my mind would set me up for success. And when I got married and I met my husband and I am married to a wonderful man, we came to a place in our relationship that was really hard, and we faced some trials that I was like, what the heck? This is not what I signed up for. And to me, it was like, I almost felt jaded. Like, I did all the things right.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to have this perfect marriage now, thinking like I was entitled to that instead of I need to work for that, right? It's not something that you just get because you did A, B, and C. It's that you're choosing to be in this marriage and every day choosing to love and stay committed.
So what do you do now when a problem arises or there's a conflict or things aren't going the way they are and you're kind of internalizing all that? What do you recommend to, and particularly women, that how they deal with that?
So there's a lot of different ways to look at this. I think probably the most elementary thing to do is realize that we are storytellers to ourselves and to other people. And we tell things that we are portraying as fact to ourselves and to others. And a lot of times they are like 90% laced with just our own thoughts that we have interpreted a certain way, and they're either serving us or they're hurting us, right? And so you could say, oh, so-and-so was so mean and they did this and blah, blah, blah. And really, the only fact that you could take out of that is this person said this, exactly. And then it's your thoughts about what they said that is causing your feelings, right? Because another person could have the same situation and totally think and feel a different way. So I think we're in our head a lot. And I think a lot of what I do in coaching is helping people. I like to visualize it like sometimes you're in the tornado and you can't even realize what's happening. And so we take those thoughts and the stories that you're telling and we separate the facts and the thoughts and the feelings, and we look at it from a outside the tornado perspective and see if we can get clearer.
How do you get people to do that? Because I know that sometimes that's hard, difficult for my own self. How do you get people to step outside themselves and change their narrative of the story they're telling in their head?
If you're telling someone just listening to this podcast, I think the most important thing is start to be an observer of your thoughts. I like to think that we are like a fish in water and we don't even realize half the time of what we're thinking. We just think it's truth, right? We're like, oh, I'm fat, or oh, no one likes me, or oh, blah, 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 or she's bratty. You just have these things and you're saying them to yourself and you don't even realize that it's almost in your subconscious over and over. And so what you want to do, and the easiest way to do it, is when you're feeling an intense emotion. So let's say you're frustrated or you're angry. At that time, stop, and it's almost like you're watching yourself in a film, and you want to say, okay, what are you thinking right now? Because when you're in the thought, you can't really realize it, but you step out, and you do a thought download. So you're going to put everything that's bouncing around on paper, okay? And you're going to just say, and you're not going to judge it. You're not going to filter it. You're going to put it all out because it's taking up space in your head, and we want to get at it so we can look at it objectively. And sometimes that process alone can be like, well, that's actually not true, or actually I don't even think that. But if we don't slow it down and take the time to do that, it just is running on repeat in our head, and then we're reacting to it as we go about our daily life.
And then it becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right?
Totally.
And then I think that's where it becomes really dangerous, is that when you begin to believe all of that, and then your self-esteem comes down, and then depression sneaks in.
Yeah, because what we practice thinking become your beliefs, right?
Exactly.
So an example, like for dating, would it be something like, oh, I'm going on a date with this person, or they probably don't think that I'm that cool. Like these are like these thoughts you're writing down. You're like,
or I don't
think I'm that
deserve
cool,
going
or,
on this date.
Yeah, he's not going to like me for X.
Yeah, a perfect example, Mace. Let's say you went on a date and the guy didn't call you back right away, or whatever you thought he should be doing, okay? And you would get all, like, say you're anxious or you start doing whatever, you would write it out like, he doesn't like me, he didn't think I was fun, the date went bad, whatever it was that you keep playing. And then you're going to put that down, and I want you to circle how many of those are facts. Do you know for a fact that he doesn't like you? Not saying he does or doesn't, but do we know that as a fact? Do you know that he didn't have fun? So all of these things we're making extra emotion interpretation with not even knowing. right?
Yeah.
And so we just want to like, so then it almost gives your brain to be like, hold up, chill out, and then say, what else could be true? What else is true to me? All right. And so the only thing in there that would be a fact is went on a date with, I was going to say Bob, but since there's a Bob, that's weird. Went on a date with Dave, and he has not called in 2 days. And then my thought.
See, Bob would call. Dave is a bad guy, but Bob would have called. But I can see that Dave is a good example. Here's a bad.
Well, the other, I will tell you, I'll give you an example that a lot of young women that we talk to or that listen to this podcast will be on a dating app, for example, and then they won't get any matches. Nobody will match with them. And their immediate response to that is that I'm ugly, nobody wants me. And that's why I'm not
Embarrassment
matching.
is a real emotion. I mean, that's a very hard emotion. So a lot of times they get embarrassed and they say, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore. And we see a lot of that. Oh, I didn't get any, so I'm going to quit. And see, that's what fear, the emotion of fear does to us, is many times it causes us just to quit. It paralyzes us.
Right.
So then if this is the case, or in this scenario, they don't get any matches on Instagram or Mutual or whatever, any dating app, whatever it may be.
On Mutual.
On Mutual is
Mutual.
the preferred dating
preferred
app
dating
of the
app.
It's Just Dinner podcast.
Go swipe on Mutual. If you don't know where they sponsor us.
Macy's on there.
And and then you like think these thoughts, oh, no one likes me, da 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 da, and then you circle only things that you know are facts, and the only things that you know is that I haven't matched with anybody. Then what do you do from there?
Okay, so this can go all different ways. Like,
Picture
first of all,
profile.
do you want to be on the app, or do you feel like you should be? Like, first of all, like, get in tune with what you actually want to do, right? And dating is a numbers game. It takes effort. You have to put yourself in uncomfortable situations. You have to date lots of people. But going from a place, so when you say all those thoughts that are coming from negativity, it's putting you in a place of scarcity, right? So then your brain almost is like, believes that there's no one for you. I'm not interesting. No one likes me. And then what it does is it goes to work, and it's almost like, all right, well, there's no one for you. Right.
Right.
And so that's not really going to a place that's going to get you into a productive nature of looking for someone to date. So one way to look at it is like just thinking, okay, what else is true about dating? Because a lot of times I'll hear people say, well, the guys are super lame. The girls are all pick-me girls, or I don't know, all these things, and they just say these things. Well, that doesn't make you like inspired to go date. It makes you feel like, oh, everybody is sucky here in Provo, okay? Or whatever it is.
Oh, we hear that a lot.
Yeah. So switching it just to be like, I only need one. There's just one. And if you go like, all these guys, yeah, sure, they could have, but there could be someone in this group or in this city or anywhere. Someone could move here tomorrow. Someone could come on a vacation. Someone could meet at a party that I'm not. I only need one match. And so if you take it from going about what isn't and just realize you only end up with one person. And yeah, it might take some effort and some dating and some bad dates and some great dates and some incredible relationships and some not so incredible relationships to find that person. Focusing that it's okay because I only need one rather than there's no one for me feels very different.
Oh, that feels very different. And I've seen that even within my own house with my roommates. We talk about, I feel like if someone's not been going on a lot of dates, we're like, there's nobody in Provo. There's no one around. There's no good boys. And then all of a sudden they find a good one. Then all of a sudden everyone in the house is like, there's a lot of great boys out there. Just got to find the one.
Just got to keep looking.
It just depends on the day what we say.
The energy.
Yes, it totally changes the energy.
Yeah.
And so I like that you just switch that mindset from thinking, oh, there's no one. I just need to find one. Yeah, there's a lot of people out there. But
Now, when we were
There's
talking,
one for me.
when we were talking in the green room before the show started, sounds cool, doesn't it?
Yeah, that was fun, wasn't it? How we slipped that in? Well, because we're big time here, and we've got a green
We have
room.
a green room.
Yeah.
So
I
when
don't
we
even
were
know
talking
what a
about, we were mentioning social media, and you talked about the comparisons that people make with other people that are on social media and how that can be damaging. Is that right?
Yeah, well, I mean, as much as we want to say we're trying to manage our social media, the truth is we are all on our phones way more than what is healthy, right? And it's just the reality, and it should be a constant thing that we're striving to be aware of. I would say, before I say the negative parts of social media, I want to emphasize that we are the CEOs of our social media. So if we are following accounts that do not make us feel uplifted, inspired in any way, unfollow them.
Yeah.
Just fire them. You're fired. Yes. I'm firing the social media account.
I would recommend you follow Kristin on Instagram, and then also the Dating Made Simple podcast.
Right. And then fire everyone else.
Those would be 2 great follows. But I would think, what happens, as much as we try to be authentic and we try to be real on social media, you're comparing your very unperfect self to a perceived perfection.
Right.
And it's not healthy, right? Because that's not reality. No one's house looks like it does on Instagram. No one's marriage looks like it does on Instagram. No one's traveling constantly and all bronze and a size 2 like they are on Instagram. It's just not reality.
No, not at all. And it's awful to see what social media has done. And I don't think it's not going away anytime soon. So it's kind of like we have to just adapt to it. And like you're saying, just unfollow those that are not uplifting to you. I remember I was off social media for a couple months, and I was like, I'm just going to re-download it and just see what's going on. And I did. And literally within the first minute of being back on it, I was like, oh, I don't feel that great again. I was like, wow, this is already affecting me. And so when it comes to dating and when it comes to finding those relationships, you see people that are dating on there, like, oh, they have such a cute relationship, whatever it may be. Like, you can't compare because you don't really know what's going on in their lives, right? It's the perfection comparison to your imperfect life. And I think we just need to remember that more often.
Take control of it. If you are a person that is very affected, like when you get off social media, let's say you're scrolling on your phone for 20 minutes, whatever, and you get off and you watch what you're saying to yourself when you get off. Literally step and say, okay, what are the thoughts that I'm having when I get off social media or get off these accounts or whatever it is, even if they're kind of seemingly innocent. Like, I followed some accounts that they were not doing anything, but I noticed that I felt like I was comparing and I was jealous and all the things that I didn't want to have to work on those extra emotions. So the easier part is just don't follow them, right?
Right.
Yeah.
You have more control than you think.
I have a couple of quotes from Kristin.
Okay.
That I think go right along with this, and then I'll tell you what she said, and then we'll have her comment.
All right.
On it, okay.
I like that.
So I read these on her Instagram, and then I think this goes exactly with what we're talking about here. She said, "Your thoughts create your feelings. Your thoughts are optional. Why not think thoughts that help you feel motivated?"
Huh.
That's pretty genius.
Yes.
That is powerful.
Yeah. So what do you mean, Kristin?
So
you said it. So what do you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, let me explain. So I think we have so much agency in our thinking and how we feel and how we act. A lot of times we think our agency just is in our action line, but there's so much agency within our thinking. So our thoughts cause our feelings, and our feelings are what motivate our actions, right? And I had a coaching session I was watching another coach a client, and I found this super powerful, and I hope it helps here too. But there was a woman that had lost the use of her legs, and she was talking about everything that she couldn't do, right? And she kept just saying, but I can't walk, and I can't walk. And she kept just going back to everything about her life, but she kept going. And it was not that the coach was making light that she couldn't walk, but she stopped her and said, I can't fly, but I don't walk around saying I can't fly. And it sounds a little demeaning, and that's not where I'm taking this. But what is the upside of telling yourself I can't walk? Is there an upside?
Self-pity. No, there's no upside in self-pity, is there?
And it is a true thought. Like, she couldn't walk, right? But when she thought that, it made her feel depressed and frustrated on things. But when she thought about what she could do, which is a simple thing, but it was just a shift. And she challenged her, don't say that out loud ever again. Even if it's taking a while, but don't manifest that, because it takes you in a lane that you're not wanting to show up in the world as. Yes, it's true and it's your circumstance, but there's no upside to having it on repeat.
Wow. And I think that's so important in dating, is that if you're not getting asked out or you're not getting matches online, to say, That's okay, because I am who I am, and then you develop and work on yourself and be more positive.
And I have conversations with students, student age, and they say, I'm just not good at relationships.
I hear that a lot.
I'm just not good at relationships. And so it's unfortunate because it's the same thing. What good does it do you to say I'm not good at relationships? If saying I'm not good at relationships made you better at relationships, then say it every day. But it doesn't any more than saying I can't walk. If you're still not going to be able to walk. And so I think that's what you're kind of getting back to from the beginning is you've got to change the narrative in your head. You got to stop saying I'm not good at relationships. You got to start saying I am good at relationships.
I even hear like, oh, I can't commit. Like, that's just, no, I can't commit. That's my problem. Right. And it's like, okay, well, okay. Defining yourself by you can't commit isn't going to help you commit. Like if you're trying to date.
Or I hear that articulated another way. They say, I'm not looking for a relationship. Everyone is looking for a relationship. It's just you have certain circumstances in your life. You never know when you're going to run into somebody that you're going to have a connection with. It's also a problem when I hear people say, these are usually young men, I'm looking for a relationship, because then that's a whole other area of problem.
Well, and the one that gets me, Kristin, is the one that says that I'm not good enough.
Right, yeah.
And I hear that a lot. I'm not good enough, or I must not be good enough.
Yeah.
That one plagues us from young to old.
Yeah.
That is a narrative that we all constantly have to continually to battle, right? Because we have high expectations of ourselves. And what I like to ask myself and those people, like, what is enough?
Right.
Define that.
Right. Good point.
Right.
Yeah.
Because so one thing I want when I was listening to you talk, because a lot of times I know people get frustrated. Well, that's just the way I think, and I don't believe the other thing. So that's like if you say, well, for example, I hate my body, and someone says, no, you need to tell yourself you love your body. Well, they're like, well, I don't love my body. So there's some resistance within that, right, for you. Mm-hmm. And so where I like to go with clients, do you want me to give a dating example?
Sure. Yes. Please.
Yes. Please.
Okay, so I had a client that she was like, she swore off dating, and she was like, there is no one out there for me. And she's like, all the guys want this certain girl that's blah, blah, blah. And she lists all these things. And I was like, okay. And she was not having it. That is a true fact to her. It was not her thoughts. It was fact. And I was like, okay, I'm not even asking you to let go of that yet. Right. But I want you to tell me what else is true or what else is possible. And we had to work on making bridge thoughts where she would get to, I said, is it possible that there could be a guy for you? And she said, yeah, like it's possible that there could be a guy for you. And I said, sit in your body with, there is no one out there. No one would want me to, it's possible there is a guy out there for me.
Right.
And we put it everywhere. We put it on Post-its. We put it in our car. We put it, and you have to work it just like changing your thought patterns is not like, oh, let me think a new thought. Oh, that feels so great. I'm happy now. It doesn't work like that. Right? It's like learning an instrument. You don't sit down at the piano and learn that these are the keys, and then all of a sudden you're this master pianist. You're like, okay, I know that that's not a thought, but I have to practice over and over and retrain where my brain is going to go and be like, okay, wait a second, and say it's possible that there is someone out there for me. It's possible. And then she switched, and after so long we went to, she believes that there's someone out there for her.
There you go.
And when you are out dating in a place that there's no one out there for me, all these guys, all these girls, whatever narrative, you are not presenting yourself open to meeting anyone.
No, yeah,
right?
100%. 100%.
No. Even with the tiniest shift of it's possible there's someone for me changes how you position yourself in the world.
Totally. You it kind of like it opens yourself up and your mind. And also I think people can recognize that in you as well. When you
totally
put it out there, like,
and you give people an opportunity.
Yeah.
To break through that shell that you've put up.
Right. And you're not like shutting it down before it even has a chance to begin.
Correct. Boy, and I see that a lot. Okay, you want to hear another quote?
I do.
Again, along the same
I
lines.
really do.
I liked it the first time. Let's do it again.
Her. Okay.
Okay.
And again, along the same lines here. If you're constantly looking for other people to help make choices for you or validate what you're thinking, you are giving away all your power.
Can you read that again?
Okay. If you're constantly looking for other people to help you make choices for you or validate what you're thinking, you are giving away all your power.
Yeah, that one makes you think.
Yes, yeah. Let's elaborate on that.
So that was, I think, one of the things that I wish I would have known before I got married, that I am responsible for my own happiness.
There you go.
That someone else does not make me happy. Now, I know there's some, like, people are like, what? No, I'm so much happier. But when you come as a person that loves who they are and knows who she is, and someone that comes to a relationship that loves who he is and knows who he likes who he is, there is so much more chance for growth rather than looking for the other person to validate you over and over, because you don't know who you are and you don't know if you like yourself, right?
Yeah.
And so there's so much that can happen before even meeting that person, of getting to know who you are. And I know we say that, oh, I'm a daughter of God. Like, what are your boundaries? Like, what lights you up? What are you not okay with? What inspires you? Like, where do you like to eat? Like, some people get so used to just being easygoing, or they've lost sight of, like, who am I actually? And becoming your own best friend. Like, would you want to date you?
What if you wouldn't want to date yourself, though? Because I was actually talking to my mom about this yesterday, and I was like, I would never want to date myself. But I mean, I guess not all personalities can like go all together, which is why I say that, because I think I would have a hard time with the exact same personality as me. But I think what you're saying is, are you someone that is confident enough to be in a relationship without being defined by your relationship?
Do I like myself? Yeah.
Yeah, because when you try to control another person, which we know we can't control, right? It makes you feel like when you're saying my relationship is great by what the other person is doing, then you've given away all your control, because we can't say if this person is going to do this or say this or act a certain way. We have no clue how someone's going to be, right? But you can say, who do I want to be in this relationship? How do I want to show up? And then when we start honing into that, it's kind of amazing, because it has a mirroring effect. As you're confident in who you are and the things that you want to bring to the table and what the things you're trying to cultivate, you don't have to have him be doing that for you. He just wants to be that way as well, because he sees it in you.
Right.
Wow.
But what I would say, Macy, and I'm not going to try to embarrass you by this, but when you look at the landscape, at least of who I know you are, you're a very confident person. You have a great testimony. You are very active in your school and all those kind of things. And you think that is the kind of person that I want to date. And so I think I am doing the right things, right? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I can see what you're saying.
Quit being so hard on yourself. But I think what she's saying is that if you have those qualities, then you are the kind of person you want to date. If you don't, then start working on yourself. Is that right, Kristin?
Yeah. Well, and going back to originally when I was saying what I wished before I got married, like, I thought my husband is what made me happy. And truthfully, I am what makes me happy. Now, do I love things that he does? And do I think loving thoughts about him? And do I have things? Of course. But because I'm not waiting for him to do that for me, it comes more organically, because I'm not needing that to validate who I am. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So almost like, I guess when it comes to dating, it's like you just need to love yourself and not like wait for happiness to come to you when you find somebody. Like, yes, it's great and you want someone to like be by your side, but also you want to define yourself by who you are and not by what they, or bring your happiness from what they bring to the relationship.
Right. And after you get married and the honeymoon stage is over and all the different things, you realize someone else, there's so many more components that are going into it. So if you have a stable foundation of knowing who you are, you're much more equipped of being able to navigate a marriage in the different aspects.
Now, one of the things that we've seen, Kristin, at least for online dating, and we've had other guests that have told us this, is, and I remember this one, she was using herself as an example, that she would make her dating profile for a particular guy that she likes. So she would match with a guy, she would read his profile, and then she'd go and change hers so that it would match that guy. Do you remember that was Rita Goodrow that did that?
I like rock climbing and deer hunting.
Yeah, I like all this stuff because that's what you like.
Warcraft.
So, and there's some real danger in that, right?
Yeah.
Well, because it's a lie.
Yeah. Well, and what she said is that she finally had to get back and do like Kristin said, do a self-evaluation, and said, "Hey, this is who I am. I'm happy with who I am, and I'm going to put myself out there." Is that right, Kristin?
Yeah. So I was writing notes before we were coming down, and I was thinking on working on liking yourself. I said it's important. I said in my notes, it's important to all of us, but especially important when we're dating, because when we're dating, it feels like our main job is to get other people to like us, especially like certain people to catch our eye. How do I get their attention? How do I seem interesting to them? Do I look okay? Are they going to think I'm hot? Are they going to ask me back out? Now it's just important, or even practicing liking you. Do you like who you are? Do you find yourself interesting? Would you want to hang out with you? And that takes practice. Like for some of us, we're not very good friends to ourselves.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah, actually, so true.
Well, I think we probably beat ourselves up more than anyone else does.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And we think that's just how we are, but you can become a better friend to yourself.
So how do you recommend practicing self-love and loving yourself?
Well, I think for me, I'm such, I shouldn't say I am kind of an easygoing person. So I just let other people make choices all the time. And I realize I'm like, what do I actually want? And so I think self-love is there's multiple things. It's taking time for yourself away from everything and being comfortable with just being with you, right? Like not on social media, not watching a movie, but just going on a walk or going on a hike and just start listening to like your thoughts. Like we have so much noise around us constantly that we don't often even just get that quiet to be with ourselves. We do in prayer, but there's sometimes just being, which is kind of all one, right? Like when I'm with myself and my thoughts, it usually turns into prayer, but just finding that quiet space.
Right.
I think also learning boundaries from a healthy place. A lot of times boundaries have a negative connotation with them, but just knowing what is okay with you. And I don't even mean boundaries like, in dating, but just even in friendships or in any kind of relationship, like what am I comfortable with or what do I like in this? And you don't even have to tell the other person that you have a boundary. A boundary is from you that you set from a healthy place and then honoring that. I actually don't like to go out and do these things. This is what I do. And so I'm going to only do this because it's what I genuinely like to do. Right. And like being able to say no. Like a lot of times we have this that we can never say no. You can say no, right? And not even have to have a reason. Well, you want to have a reason for yourself, but not have to have this big, long explanation. We just want to get in tune with what it is that is driving us, like our why for doing things and staying true to that. It really comes down to, would you like to be friends with you, right? And that self-love just
really good point.
With that person.
Let me tell you, we had a young man, very wise young man, Zach, I hope you're listening, that came on to our podcast, and he gave this parable. And he said that when you're dating, it's like having a garden or going out and looking for butterflies. And he said you can go out and you can try to catch butterflies all day and just keep trying to catch them. And it's really hard. But if you go back and if you start building a beautiful garden, and you prune your garden and you weed your garden and you make everything beautiful, the butterflies will all of a sudden start coming to you. And that idea that Zach told us was you start working on yourself. Make yourself beautiful. Be happy with who you are. And I think he used the idea of sitting back and playing sports for himself or calling his grandmother. Is that a good parable? Is Zach a wise, smart man?
Zach, where are you? Great job, Zach. I love, when you were saying that, so in coaching is for the individual. So even sometimes people will come to me and want help within their marriage, but I help the woman within their marriage. And sometimes they're like, well, no, because my husband needs to do this and he needs to hear what he needs to be doing. And it's really interesting because when you start to take accountability for what you're doing in your own life, whatever that might be, in the dating world, in, you know, your marriage, in whatever it is, you know, at school, when you take accountability and not are a victim, but saying, okay, how do I want to move forward? What happens is it starts this switch, right? Like when you work on yourself and do the things rather than saying all the things you want, things start mirroring you. So like what you're putting good out into the world starts coming back to you. And it sounds a little woo-woo, right? Bob's going to ask me where my incense is, but I think it's like one of the best things about coaching, because they start showing up differently in their relationship, and then other people start mirroring that same kind of vibration, right? Because it changes who they are.
Yeah, that's the idea of building that garden.
Yeah.
You build yourself up to be the person that you want to be, and then all of a sudden you're right. Everything starts coming towards you as opposed to going away from you.
Yeah, you're attracting it.
Right.
Just such a wonderful analogy, and also just some
yeah, here's the thing.
Advice.
What's the deal? We keep crediting Zach with this. Why do we get to the point we just steal this and we make this part of these just in our podcast? What's Zach to us?
You encouraged him to write a book.
Well, he didn't write the darn book. He didn't do a thing I
thought
said.
he was going to write an article on
you always see, Zach. This. He didn't do one thing I told him to do.
All right, Kristin, I want you to...
Zach's not here. That's not very fair.
Oh, that's true. It's true. It's not like we're... He might be listening, though, if he's listening.
I hope he is, yeah. All right, Kristin, so I want you to do some coaching here. All right? And so we have some young women who are really struggling with self-worth, and we're a dating podcast, so struggling with dating or even not dating. They're sitting home alone. All right, let's coach them. What do you tell them?
Okay, they would come to me. When you do this is kind of a big blanket coaching session, but okay. I would want to ask them what's the problem, because what they think might be happening, I would want to hear what was happening in their head, right? So if someone came to me and I am not dating, no one likes me, I can't meet anyone, blah, 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 I hate my life, right? That's kind of what's happening. Yeah. You would tell me, all right, so give me an example. Like, give me a certain situation, because you want to start watching like what is happening, because like I said in the beginning, they have now created a story, almost an identity of who they are. I'm a non-dater, stay at home, Netflix watcher, not available. Okay. And so we want to go to, okay, like when did this last happen? Did you get turned down on a date? Did you put yourself on an app? Like where did this narrative start that you started forming about yourself? So did you get rejected on an app? Like let's go to the crux of where you're saying now, nobody likes me or no one is for me. Because what happens is we will blanket things and then that will become like our identity. And then like you said, Tom, like then we fulfill it, right?
Right.
And so we want to really get picky to when we'd go down. So I would get a situation and they'd say, okay, I put myself out on an app and no one responded. So then we'd even want to get it more factual. You made yourself go live on an app and you had no responses within 6 days. Okay. Because sometimes like it might not even be that they might be like, like, okay, so no one responded in 6 days. Then I would want to be like, what are you making that mean? Right? Because we're trying to just strip it down so that you can look at it from a more factual, logical place. Because really, like, okay, if someone didn't reply to your app for 6 days, I wasn't on apps, but so in 6 days, and now you're making, no one likes me, I'm never going to find anyone, and see how you go to this instant like place when really it's like, oh yeah, I haven't connected with anyone yet in 6 days.
Yet.
Maybe it's something
that's the key word.
My profile, right? Maybe it's like, let's just look at it from a different point. Like what is happening here? So you really want to like kind of strip it apart. So it's hard when it's this blanket thing, but I would say start like questioning, like, okay, is this really true? Like what's happening? When's the last time I felt an intense emotion about this? And go back to what was happening and what was I thinking then?
So it's kind of like pinpointing where your thoughts are wrong. Kind of like going back to like what's actually fact.
Now, would you recommend that they continue to put themselves out there, or do they want to make some adjustments, or where would they go from there?
If being on apps is bringing more negativity to them, then I would say get off the apps for right now. Because if they're in a space that's not making them stay in the lane of excited or, interested, and it's only bringing like self-criticism and negativity and anxiety, like that's not doing anybody any good, right? Take a break. Like go on a hiatus from it and say, okay, I'm gonna pause this for a little bit and just focus on a different way. But you do have to put yourself out there in order to, remember it's a numbers game. The more people that you meet, the more likely you are to find that one. So there is going to be some effort on your part, but do that in a way that feels like good to you. And maybe it's cleaning up some of your thoughts about dating apps and what the expectation is with them and how you view them, and let go of what everybody else is doing and their results and their matches.
Let me shift just a minute here to give you a kind of persona of to what we see here. I talk to some young women, they say, I'm a senior and I'm leaving BYU and I'm not married and I feel like I'm a failure. Or we see young men who are saying, I'm not dating because I'm not ready to get married. And a lot of times we see expectations that come from society and from our church and from our families that we need to get married, and marriage is the objective rather than developing relationships. And so I think that's somewhat ingrained in a lot of people in this age group that they're dating, that the purpose, and we hear people say, look into the eyes of every person you meet and look at them as your eternal companion, which kind of sets you up for failure. What do you do in that situation when you have clients and their objective is not necessarily finding a good match, but it's getting married? Do you have to talk them off the ledge when it comes to that?
You'd probably go back to asking, like, why is it that they want to get married? Like, if it's feeling like a should, or, you want to get to why is it, and what is it about marriage that you're seeking, and what is about, because what's happening is they're getting in a lane that is coming to scarcity, and it's coming to like, it's never going to happen. And when we get in that lane and we get stuck there, it stifles our actions. You're not going to be putting yourself out there, because when you're coming from a place of like, it's never going to happen, of fear or whatever it is, your actions from fear are not, get myself on 2 more dating apps, ask someone out for a blind date, go to the word social. Those are not your actions from fear and from scarcity. So we're going to want to clean up what we're thinking, and take some of the pressure off. Like, let go some of these notions. And that, like I said, this isn't something that you hear once and you're like, okay, I don't have any pressure anymore. It's just going to happen organically. Like,
I've been healed.
Yeah, totally. You have to do a little bit of work around it, because the truth is you've been telling these things to yourself for a very long time.
I think one of the quotes we always hear that's really damaging to us, and please, Brigham, forgive me for saying this, but if you're over 25, you are a menace to society,
and
you're not married.
That is like
the
biggest joke among like single adults right now.
Yeah, but we hear that, and so I think a lot of people think if I leave BYU and I'm not married, I'm a failure.
Right.
And I have failed, and so I have to get married. I have to go do that.
You need to find somebody.
Yeah, and I think you're putting yourself in a really bad spot then, because you're just kind of hurrying into something.
I want to get that person on a call.
All right, so listen, if you're out there thinking this, get in touch with us.
Call in right now, 1-800. Operators are standing by. Macy is standing by.
We'll send you to Kristin's Instagram, and you can get a hold of her right now.
Well, because, and the truth is okay, they're thinking that, they're feeling that. That's real, right? That's not something that's where they're at. But is it helping them get to where they want to be? And I'm not saying we're like, well, just don't think that. But what else is true about that's going on for your life that creates different emotions? Because we need to shift things to get you to a place of feeling inspired again and feeling the want to connect. Like staying in this place of like, I failed, I must not be meant for anybody. Like, you're probably not going to meet anyone in that frame, right?
No.
If you're going to that space.
Well, you're desperate.
Right. And no one wants to meet someone when they're desperate.
Exactly.
It never works out good.
All right, we have a little bit of time left, and I have to ask you this. Because, Kristin, you talked about the maybe a lot, and this is another quote from her. She says, do not stay in the miserable maybe.
Wow. The miserable maybe.
Yeah. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. You need to just make some action happen. We spend so much time like wondering if things are the right choice, or like, should we do this or should we do not? Just do something, right? Staying in the miserable maybe, you either can make the choice and realize, oh, that wasn't actually, if we're in dating, he's actually not who I want to date. It turned out different. But at least you learn from it. Staying in like the miserable maybe of indecisiveness just makes you completely miserable because you're making no forward progress. Even if you make the choice and it doesn't turn out how you wanted to, you still have that information and can move forward from that. Yeah. Right?
I love that. I love that. I feel like
she's amazing.
No, she's awesome. I love her. She's the best. But it's like all these people like just don't go out or date. They're like, I'm too scared to go out there. And it's like, okay, well, what if you go out there and it sucks? Okay. Well, you learned that you didn't like this kind of person, or you learned I didn't like this kind of food or this kind of activity, and you're like, I didn't make any progress. Well, okay, that's like the maybe. At least you went out, and at least you took that time to do that, and so now you're not in the maybe. Now you're moving forward.
Yeah. You're in the B.
Yeah, exactly. And you learn something about yourself, or you learn something about someone that you don't care to move forward with, and that's all just information bettering your forward progression.
Awesome. Macy, thank you.
No.
Thank you for having such a great aunt.
Man, your relatives are amazing.
Yes, they are. This is who in your family are going to bring on next week.
Yeah, I got to start thinking about that. There's too many really great ones,
okay,
honestly.
Well,
all right, Kristin, how can some of these young women that are out there that maybe have listened to our podcast, how can they get in touch with you?
Probably the easiest way is on social media. It's just Kristin Thelin Coaching, and they reach out. And even if they're not ready for coaching, I would love to just chat with them, give them a few tips. I offer a free call for our first time just to give them. And if they're not in a space ready for coaching, I totally get that, right? But maybe can help give them a few skill set to get them at least in the right trajectory and get some momentum happening to create some change. And
there you go.
And that's Kristin with a K?
Kristin and 2 I's. Kristin Thelin. I know it's a name, right? Kristin Thelin Coaching.
And how are we spelling Thelin?
T-H-E.
Everybody knows Macy, so
L-I-N. Right?
It's like Thelin,
T-H-E-L-I-N.
Could they just look up? Could they just look up Macy's aunt? Would that? Could you get Macy'sAunt.com?
Yeah, subtitle Macy's aunt.
And I just have to say, seriously, like going to lunch with her was like a therapy session.
Really?
It's just like.
Did she charge you for it? Did she charge it?
No, she actually paid for the lunch.
Oh, wow. See, she is a good aunt. She's a good aunt.
I just want to say, ladies that are listening, that was the most amazing offer that I think we've ever had on the podcast.
Yeah.
I would agree with that one.
Call her up, talk to her, and maybe you are ready.
Work it out.
She can help you in some coaching. And
get out of the maybe.
She gave you a...
Hey, I want to say, like, why I got into this. Of course, I have a business and I am building something and I love creating something, but I got in this because I was in a hard place and didn't realize that I had choices that I could feel and think and do differently. And I remember being paralyzed thinking that this is just what my life is going to be and I don't even know how to get out of this. And I think sometimes in the church, we know what we want, but we get a little hung up on how to get there. And coaching and thought work is just one way that we clear out the clutter. And I just like to be able to put things in a way that can give us better access to the Holy Ghost and clear out some of that mind drama and help us see what's going on. So I would be happy to talk with anyone.
There you go.
And everyone who knows her knows that she's the best person to talk to. So she's so fun and so nice and so great and nothing but incredible things to say about her. So everybody needs to go talk to her.
And talk to her. Kristin, thank you so much for being here. It was just wonderful talking to you.
You guys, it was my pleasure.
Yeah, and we might have to have you back again someday and provide some other words of advice. So we really appreciate it. Bob and Macy, thank you for coming.
It's been a pleasure. An enjoyable afternoon, as always.
As always.
I loved this. This is super fun. I get to have my aunt and some of my friends with
family
me.
Relations, family, friends surrounding. This is next to your funeral. This is probably the best things that ever going to happen to you.
I will say, Kristin, that your niece is one of the best people that I know as well. Yes. So, well, guys, thank you. Listeners, this was wonderful to be with you. I hope you got a lot out of this. And we want you to go and check out our website. You can go back and see all of our guests that we've had. There's lots of connections there for our podcast. You can hear it on Apple or Google or Spotify. Please go and listen. Give us some advice. Give us an evaluation of how we're doing. You can also go to our Instagram page, which is @datingmadesimple, and you can look at some of the really fun stuff up there. You're probably going to see some quotes and maybe even see Kristin a little bit here, and we'll put her up on our social media. And also email us at theitsjustinterpodcast@gmail.com. Everybody, thank you. I really appreciate it. And listen, all you guys out there, just go have fun out there, would you?